Okay. So, first of all, we would like to welcome you all guys to this SQL workshop. So, I would like to take this opportunity to thank first of all Indrani ma'am from Hindustan College. She helped us in getting this workshop reached to more students, so that it will be helpful for the students as well. And I would like to thank all of you who have joined, who took your time for the registration, and also making your 2 hours allocating for this workshop and joining here. So we can give you an assurance that these 2 hours won't be wasted. So we will go in and outs of database and SQL, and we believe this will be useful for your development of your skills, and as well as it will be surely helpful for your placements in upcoming months, right? So surely we'll give you that assurance. So basically this session, what we have planned is we have split it into kind of 2 parts. So first part, I will be teaching you about why we need databases and where these databases got evolved, and how this digital era designed the database, or how it is using the database to the max. So all those things, kind of introduction level, I'll be providing you the details. And the second major part will be taken over by Divya, who is working as a data engineer, and she will provide you ins and out of how this DBMS works, and how SQL is working in a lot of enterprises, and how they are making use of SQL and all. So since she is very experienced in handling all this DBMS stuff, she will be teaching you theory parts also. She will teach you, and kind of a practical session, kind of mini project also. She will give a brief introduction how to design a database for a human resource management system. So I think you will get a lot of exposure to SQLs taking out of this workshop. So as a starting point, I would like to start from web application architecture. So basically, why web application architecture? So the initially why I thought of adding this, because first of all, we need to understand why databases and where this database is actually used, and we need to understand how this database came into picture. So if you understand this web application architecture, overall we'll understand all these concept front end or back end, and back end we have the database, why we need a database. All these concepts we will thoroughly understand. So that is the reason I thought of starting from this web application architecture. So if you can see the screen in the diagram, so whatever application we use, so for example we can take Facebook as an application. So whenever you use Facebook in a web browser, namely Chrome or Firefox or any other web browsers, so it is a kind of web application. So there's a difference between mobile application and web application, right? So mobile applications are natively used in our day-to-day lives. In our mobile, we will install some application from the app stores and we will use it. So those are known as mobile application, and web applications are the applications which we will use in browsers, right? So if you take the web application, for example, as Facebook, so Facebook has their own user interface. So Facebook has their own user interface for example, if I want to log in into Facebook, first I will go to facebook.com, and then I'll get a front end, I'll get a web page, right? So in that web page there will be login, username, password, text box fields will be there, where I'll give inputs, and login buttons will be there. So these are all, in technical perspective, we'll say that as front end. So this Facebook, for example, as a front end will be coded using this HTML, CSS, JavaScript as base, and there are frameworks like React.js and other libraries as well. So this is the front end part which the user sees. For example, user will give the inputs, or will see the profiles of our friends, or all these are part of the front end. And if you take the back end part, so back end is the place where lots of application logics would be written. So for example, if users enter a username and password, somewhere we need to check whether this username and passwords are correct or not, right? So while signing up, what we will do in front end, we will get the username and password, then we'll pass those to the backend server. So in backend server, if you see this diagram in this second part, so there is namely This backend service can be coded using PHP, JavaScript, Python or Java. Again, there are a lot of programming languages and a lot of frameworks which we can choose from. So in this application logic, we'll get the username and password as request from the front end, and first what we'll do is, while sign up, we'll store the data into database, right? So in the database you can kind of see a cylindrical shape over there at the right bottom of the diagram. So basically in the database can be anything, like namely examples of MySQL, PostgreSQL or MariaDB. There are again lots of databases available. So once we put the sign up data into fetched from the front end and using our backend server, we put the data into the database. So once we put that data into the database, like, so now we have that particular user's username and password, and next time when an user comes to the Facebook and once they log in, what will happen again, this login password and username will come to the backend server using that request which you can see in this arrow, and this request will contain the username and password, and this server, what it will do is, it will try to fetch from this database. Okay, so this it will try to fetch and check whether this username and password for this particular user is right or wrong. So this data is stored in database and it is retrieved from the database whenever it is needed. So this retrieval and fetching and all handled by this application servers and front end. The main part is, all these data should be stored in a structured way, right? So for example, if we store the data without a database, for example, if we create a text file or some other, putting it in pen drive or storing in some other servers, that won't make sense, right? So it should be structured in a particular way, and it should be put it into kind of some standard place, so that the application servers and front end can use that. So that is why this database comes in, and in this particular database we will be structuring, for example, the users profile details will be structured in one table, and maybe their friend list they will be structured in one table, so that we can easily fetch that and we can use it in whenever it is needed. So that is the main use of the databases are. So when you take a lot of applications, so I was telling Facebook, so whatever application is used in the current, for example in your mobile phone or in a web browser, whatever application you use, even in our Google Meet should be using their own databases in somewhere sitting in backend. So these and all, every kind of application in digital era it is used, so that like since it is used in many applications, there are again like lots of demands for raises for this application developers as well. So that is why we need to understand this database is a very core concept of any application which we use, and it is good for as a student or a professional. It is good for us to learn how this database works, or how we need to organize these data, or how we need to structure, or how we are going to query using SQL. To understand and learn these skills, it will be really useful for us. So that is why currently we are doing this workshop. So from your side, like, please be attentive and try to, if you have any concerns, try to raise your concerns in the chat, and you can put your own questions over there. We'll try to answer that. So that is the base part. So that is why I thought of explaining this web application architecture. And anyway, if it is a mobile application architecture also, we will be using the databases, any kind of application will be using. So here I kind of picturized a kind of 90s database. So I would say like 90s or before 90s, there were no digital era, right? Like after at the 90s or the early 2000s, where the digital economy started booming, and there were a lot of applications, and like even Facebooks or Googles or Amazons, a lot of applications were started building in that phase of the 90s or 2000s. So before that, what people did, so before that, so to understand this again, like it is crucial for us, like, so why databases were created. So before that, so if you go to any kind of accounting firms or any kind of enterprises, like what they will do is they will use this ledger book, right? So any kind of accounting details they want to note, they will take a note, and they will take a pen or pencil, like they will note down everything, like manually they will write it down, and they will store it in a kind of some other places physically. So what will happen is there it will be very tedious process to manually store the data or retrieve the data or fetching the data, like all process will be manual, and it will be very cumbersome to fetch, right? So for example, again there won't be only one ledger, so there will be lots of collections of ledger they will maintain. If you see in the second image, so it all comes under manual process, and it will be very complex for an user to maintain all these kind of records in a physical kind of asset. So when internet started booming, so people thought, why not we can put this data in digital format. So that is why, like, many engineers at that time have formed this concept called databases, and they tried to formulate and standardize how we can structure data, how we can query data, query in the sense how we can fetch the data. So all those things started to evolve, and now currently we are in a kind of namely like 4G kind of world right now. Like wherever, even from the world, like right now I am, like I can contact you people, or you guys can interact with me anywhere from the world, right? So back and everything are stored in a database, I would say. So database, so this is the reasons why it evolved. And so now currently no one want to store physical data, and no one want to fetch these data manually from a physical asset, and it won't be very tedious now. So once you store the data digitally, on a single click we can fetch lots of 10,000s or lakhs of data in a single fetch. In a single click we can fetch all these data. So that is the reason, like we have lots of applications in internet now. So these two concepts are very crucial to understand why we need databases. And coming to the next slide, once you see the scope of SQL, so now we understood the kind of web application architecture and why databases were needed and how it evolved, and before 90s how these databases were there physically, and how those converted into digital format. So now, so as I said, the scope of SQL has been increased, I would say. So because since every application which we use using databases, so now it is tagged as a very in-demand skill for learning SQL. So what is SQL? So that Divya will deeply explain you. But scope of SQL is learning this SQL will definitely help you in increasing your skill potential to get to placed into some kind of companies. Namely, like every companies in the world, like Google, Amazon, or Apple, listed in this slide. Every company uses databases, and there are lots of jobs around it as well. So also, like for example, there are jobs like data scientist or data engineer, data analyst. Every kind of jobs require this SQL as the base, as fundamental for them. So if you understand SQL, you can become like another data scientist or data engineer, or even for becoming a backend developer or a programmer. Understanding this SQL and how DBMS works, it is a crucial part. So you can be a front-end developer or a backend or a full stack developer. So understanding how this backend databases works is crucial for you to develop application and design data, right? So having this in mind and understanding the scope of SQL, I think it should motivate you guys to learn this SQL. And I hope from here Divya, our experienced data engineer, will take on this session, and she will explain practically and kind of theoretically she will explain how DBMS works and where this SQL and how we need to write SQL queries. She will take on from here. So that's it from my side, guys. So yeah, please Divya, take over.
Yeah, John, thank you. Hello everyone, this is Divya. I'm working as a data engineer. Hope you understood what John has conveyed so far, like why we need a database and all. So from here, I'll be giving the session related to what is a database, why and how it is used, and why do we need a database, and queries part, and all these things will be given by me. So let us jump into the session. Like, what is a database? As we know, database is something where we are storing the data, and it's like any kind of application which is having data, they just need a database to store the data in a structured way. Depending upon the application's usage and the application, we have different kinds of databases which we have mentioned, like Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, MariaDB, and all. So these are some of the examples of databases which is available in real time. And also database where we can go and not only storing the data is managed there, also we can go and fetch the data which is useful for any kind of organization where, for example, I'm just telling that there is an organization called hospital management system. So they have to know, like, what is the revenue generated in a day, like, and how many patients have visited a day. Without storing the data, we just can't go and give them the data what they require, right? So it is very important for any person who is handling the database to understand its architecture, and also they should be aware of how to fetch the data, and also we should be very aware how the data has to be stored. Storing the data in a very good manner is also important here. So I'm just going to tell you in next part. So next is database management system. So database management system is nothing but we have a database and we just have to go and access the database, right? So there comes the database management system. So it is just a software where we are managing the database, and where we are going and viewing the database, and where we are going and writing the queries to fetch the data from the database. And DBMS also gives some of the features, like we can have the relationship between the data in the table. So we do have different kinds of databases, and also the storing the data in organized way is also managed in a database, and also it is highly secured, and there is we can able to avoid the duplication of records. All kind of things will be handled in a database management system. And we do have different concepts like normalization, where they have mentioned how the data has to be stored, and how the tables has to be designed, something like how we have to name the table. All concepts will be there covered in normalization, and it is a big topic, so I'm just giving the go through overview like what is normalization. So next is we do have three different users, like admin, database designer, and an end user. What is a part of an admin user in a database? Like he can go and view the entire database. He have the entire access to the database, and also he can go and take the backup of the database, and he can even go and make a copy of the existing database, and he can create a new database. And giving the access to different users who's accessing the database also managed by the admin user. And then we do have a database designer. Database designer is someone who's going to design the DB. Like we have the tables, and so he will be the one who will be designing the tables, and he will be the one who will be writing queries to not only creating the DB tables, and also the functions, procedures, which we'll be seeing in further part. And end user is someone who's someone we just call like data engineer or data analyst, someone who's going to write a query just to fetch the data for any reporting purpose, which has to be given, as I said before, which has to be given to an organization. So end user is someone who's someone like analyst, or someone who's going to write a query, and he's going to just view the data which is stored in the database. And these are some of the different types of databases available in real time. First is relational database, which is most widely used to database in real time. And some of the example of relational databases: MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, and we do have so many relational databases. And next is NoSQL. NoSQL is another database where we can have an example of MongoDB, where we can store not only in a structured way, we can even store the unstructured data. So you may have a doubt like what is unstructured data? Unstructured data, text to document, Excel file, and we do have JSON kind of data type, where a JSON file can be stored. And next is object oriented database. Object oriented is like, for example, I have to store, I have an employee data, so relation between the employees will be maintained in an object between the objects. For example, relational database will be having a table structure. Here the object, so each and every data will be represented in an object manner, so they are naming it as an object oriented database. Next we have cloud database. So it is nothing but the database is managed in a cloud server. And next is an hierarchical database. Hierarchical means it is like a tree like structure where data are linked in a network manner. And here we are going to see what is RDBMS. So this is the most widely used database in real time, and also SQL is the basis of RDBMS. SQL is querying language which is used in the relational database. And as I said earlier, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL are some of the examples of RDBMS where the data are stored in a table format, and they are stored in an organized format. So it is easy to fetch the data, it is easy to understand the data, and also it is easy to view the data. And so here it is an example of employee table where you can see the serial number, name, age, gender, and data are stored in a format which is easy for us to understand by just seeing the table, and just by seeing the columns we can able to understand what data we are storing. And so that is why relational database is most widely used database. And next is a database schema. Schema is nothing but the diagrammatic representation of a database. So just by viewing the schema, one should able to understand what kind of data are stored in the database and how the tables are linked between each and every table. So you may have a doubt why we have to go and see the schema diagram. For example, a database designer will just go and design a table. So data analyst, he is coming into the part and he is going to write the queries to fetch the data. So every time someone has won't be available to go and tell him this is the table where we are storing the employee data, this is the table where we are going and storing the department data. So we have so just by viewing the schema diagram, the data analyst or data engineer who is just going to write any queries should be understanding the database by viewing the diagram. So that is why we should be aware of the database schema diagram also. And here you can see there is an employee table which is linked to the department table, and you may have a doubt why we have to store department data separately and shift data separately. We can go and just add the shift data also here directly in the employee table. So I can give you an example. Like, so there is an employee called Sam. He's working as an IT employee, and so every time some another employee. So I just have to mention the I'm just mentioning the department name as IT capital first time, and second time I'm just going and making an entry of another employee where his department name by mistake I'm just typing I in capital letter and then T in small letter. So we have the same department IT but two different names, and also I can have I and T both the letters in small letter, right? So this and all will be causing the inconsistency of a database. So this shouldn't happen. That is why we are storing the employee data and department data separately. And for if we are storing the department name in department table one time, and we can just go and use a foreign key reference to just link the ID of the table. So it is easy to link the table, and also it is easy to write a query to fetch the data. And data is there will be no duplication of data. And so what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. This is the language what we are going to use to write the queries, and this is the language which we are going to use to insert the data into database and to fetch the data from the database. All these kinds of things will be handled by using the SQL querying language. And we do have different type of SQL languages, which is data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, and the transaction control language. So data definition language is nothing but just defining the structure of any database. So before we have to create a database, and then inside the database we'll be having tables, and then each table will be having the datas. So just to create any database and creating the tables and modifying the tables and deleting a table and renaming the table, all these comes under the data definition language. Next is the data manipulation. Manipulation is nothing but data retrieval or managing the data. So going and inserting the records into table, going and editing or updating the records in a table, deleting any records or fetching any records, all these kind of things will come under data manipulation language. Next is data control language. Data control is nothing but, so as I told you earlier, we do have different kinds of user. So I am just going and giving any user, like any access. So one should have only select access. So he shouldn't go and edit the data which is stored in the database for security purpose. So for example, as I told, a data analyst role will be going and just viewing the data. He don't need an access to go and edit the data. So all these access related things will be controlled in the data, controlled using these two commands like grant and revoke. So that and all will be handled by using data control language. And next is a transaction control. So what is a transaction means? Let us consider an example of Amazon. So we are going and purchasing anything. Before purchasing anything, we have to go and before placing an order, we have to go and log in into the Amazon application, and we are just entering the details, and it is going and updating into the database, right? So that is the thing called transaction. Transaction is nothing but the thing which is entered in the application is just getting entered into the database. Here we do have two different commands like commit and rollback. What a transaction control language does is, so I'm just for example, this is available in Oracle database. So I'm just going and editing a data in a database, and by mistakenly I have updated, instead of updating one column, I'm just going and updating some 10 columns. I just made a mistake. So what this commit does is, unless I give commit, it won't get saved in the database. So, and also we do have rollback, where if I have to revert the changes what I have done, so I can go and use the command called rollback to just revert the changes what I have done before. Just the last transaction what I have edited, I can go and revert it. So these are the different SQL languages available in real time. And now I'm just going to explain you the different DDL operations and DML operations by creating some simple project of human resource management, where we are going to have a demo of creating a database, and all these commands will be executed, and we can just see the example how the database works. And this is an example of schema diagram which I told you earlier. I do have a schema already called public, where I can see the different tables and the links between them and all. So this schema diagram of database which I already have. So now let us create a database. I'm using a tool called DBever. We do have different tools. Why I'm using DBever is, using this tool I can go and connect or any database which is available. So as you can see, I can connect Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, every database which is available by just using the one tool, and it is also easy to use, and also comments and all will be coming by default. So I'm just using this tool which is very easy to use, and we do have different tools. For Postgres we have pgadmin tool, where we can go and write the queries, and also for Oracle we have SQL developer. As you can see, this is the SQL developer tool, and for each and every database we have different tools also. We can use DBever, and there is an edition called community edition which is completely free, and DBever also has 4 different editions like except community edition, there is some enterprise edition and some other editions which is paid version. You can just go and download it from Google.
So
okay,
guys,
now I'm just
sorry for the interruption, Divya. So I think so now we understood the kind of theory part, how databases works, why DBMS, and people's like database administrator or data analyst will be using DBMS, and they will use SQL queries, and what are the different types of SQL query, namely DDL or DML. So all this kind of high level we got to know about a kind of theoretical perspective. So if you guys have any doubts, so now Divya is going to move into practical session where she will be creating or showing HR human resource management system where employee details will be stored. So before that, if you guys have any doubts, you can switch on your mic and ask those doubts, so that then and there we can easily clear the doubts and move ahead. So if you guys have any doubts, anyone please come forward.
okay, John. Okay, I'm just
Yeah, 1 second, Divya. I think someone is having some question. Yeah, please. I think someone tried to ask question. Okay, so I think we can move forward. So if you guys have any questions, please put it in chat also uh, while we are presenting, or we have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. So there also we can talk about it. So yeah, Divya, please continue.
okay. So I'm just going to create a database. Here the syntax is create database name, and I'm going to demonstrate using the Postgres DB, where instead of database they just name it as a schema. Schema and database both are same, just the terms are different. So here I'm just creating a database called HRMS, and after creating, I'm just going and refreshing. Here you can able to view the database, and now you can see there is nothing available in this schema. Now I'm connecting to this schema by just giving the new SQL script. I'm just connecting to the schema. Before it was connecting to the Postgres schema. I mean, public is the default schema which is available in Postgres, and if we wanted to create any new database, we have to go and create, and it will be coming under the schema part. And also whenever we are creating a new user, here you can able to view the end user which is created, and just by clicking on that user you can able to view what are the permissions given, what are the permissions they have, and what are the tables which is given access and all. You can just go and view. And next is admin part. This and all we just don't need now. And okay, next I have connected to HRMS DB now. So you can see it here, like I have connected to HRMS at Postgres. And here you can see I have connected to public DB. Okay, let us see an example by creating some tables. So HRMS is nothing but human resource management, where an application is storing the employee data, and here I'm just creating an employee table with the different data types. So for example, ID, and I'm just giving a data type called serial. Serial is a data type which is available in Postgres. Using serial, the numbers will be automatically generated. For example, we wanted to have the serial number 1, 2, 3, 4. Every time we don't need to give the 1, 2, 3, 4 number for every employee. So I'm just giving a serial data type which will give the auto generated number for every employees which is getting inserted. And then I'm just giving a employee name, and another data type which is available as a varchar. Varchar data type stores the character data, and I am just mentioning the length of the this column. I'm just giving the 30 as the length of this column. And next is the employee ID. Employee ID, I'm storing it as the integer, so we have a data type called int. And then date of joining, I'm storing the date of joining as a data type date, so I have a data type called date. And next is department ID, and all these things are I'm just storing as a integer format. And next is in DBMS we do have different kinds of constraint. Constraint is nothing but just we have to while whenever an insert or update is happening, we just have to have some control over the data. For example, we have a not null constraint. So not null, what a not null constraint does is it will tell that whenever I'm doing an insert into employee ID column, if I'm not giving the entry for this column, it will just throw the error. This column shouldn't be null. Null is nothing but the table won't be having any data. It is simply empty. So that is so in order to not have an column shouldn't have an empty type. For example, if a column is mandatory, we are using a not null constraint which will make a field mandatory, so that every time whenever we are doing an insert, it will give an alert like it is mandatory to enter the employee ID for this table. And next is we have a default constraint. So first I will create a table, and then let me explain the concept by giving the example. So I have created an employee table, and I'm creating a department table with ID and department name, and also shift table. Okay, and now let us do insert into this table. Okay, I'm doing the insert. This is the syntax for inserting the data into the employees table. So insert into employee table name, where I have mentioned the columns where I'm going to exact columns and the exact data which is going to match that column. And then I'm not giving the data for each and every column. I'm just giving the data for some 5 columns. So as you can see, I'm not giving any data for department ID. Just for employee name, I am giving the employee name as Sam, employee ID, date of joining, salary, and shift ID. So I have done an insert. So let us go and view the data, how it is stored in the table. So as you can see, here ID is the column where I didn't give the ID data for the ID column. It is automatically generated. First time I am doing the insert, and it is getting the ID column as 1 as the value, and then employee name, employee ID, date of joining, department ID. As you can see, I didn't give it, but by default it is taking some value. So while creating a table, I have used a default constraint where I am just giving the default value for this column. So one is the default value which I have assigned to the department ID, and next is shift ID and salary which I have given the data. And next next constraint is a primary key. So there is another constraint called primary key. What is a primary key in a table is like every table should have a unique identification. So for example, this table I mean here this table is having a name called Sam. So I'm just going and making an entry for another employee whose name is also Sam. And let us see what happens. So you can see it is just going and inserting. So I have to differentiate these 2 columns. So for that, I just have a column called primary key, which is used for unique identification of each column. And also we do have another constraint called unique constraint. It is also used for uniquely identifying each and every row which is stored in a table. But you may have a doubt like what is the difference between primary key and unique key. We may have different combinations of 2 columns as a unique key, but only one column should be given as a primary key, and a table should have only one primary key. And also a primary key is not only for storing the serial number, but it is we can use the primary key for doing any update, and also we can create indexing which is used for faster retrieving of data, which and all I'll be telling you in later part. So primary key is a very important thing which we have to understand as a constraint. Each and every table, so it is not mandatory to have a primary key, but it is a good practice of any database designer to have a primary key for every table. And next is a foreign key. So you can see I have created a department table, and so I have to link the employee and department table. So I'm using a foreign key so that so instead of going and storing the department name, as I said earlier, I'm just going and storing the department ID. Department ID is is the primary key of the department table, which I am referring it in the employee table, so it is referred as the foreign key. uh, Hope you understand. If you have any doubt, let me know.
So this
And also I am,
like for executing the queries, like hope you have explained that also, right? I think you are using some shortcuts for it.
yeah.
So how you are executing each and every query, maybe that also you can explain so that they'll understand.
Okay, so we have a symbol here which is called execute SQL statement. So by just clicking on it, we can execute, or am using a shortcut called Control Enter to just execute the statements.
Yeah, so if I want to execute one particular command, for example, select star employees from employees, I will just select that line and then I can click on that.
You can give Control Enter, or you can give this.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay, so these are the different types of constraints available, which is primary key, foreign key, not null constraint, default constraint. There is another constraint available called check constraint. What a check constraint does is, for example, if I'm adding an column called age. So, for example, I don't need to store the age value greater than 150. So, using the check constraint, I can restrict the data which is coming into the employee table by using the check constraint. Age shouldn't be greater than 150. So whenever I'm doing an insert, it will just throw an alert like age shouldn't be greater than 150. So we have different another constraint called check constraint. So we have 6 different constraints which is most frequently used in real time.
Yeah, Divya, there is a question related to Aaron is asking, can you repeat the reference word? What is the meaning of reference keyword?
Okay, actually this is a syntax for foreign key, for creating a foreign key. So you can see there is a department table. Okay, let me just go in the. Okay. So there is no data in this department table. I'm just going and doing an entry here. So I have created a department table. So IT is the department. So by giving the ID 1, by default the employee will be mapped to the department IP. So you can see the ID 1 is referred here. So which means the department tables column which is having the ID 1 is mapped to this employee Sam who is having the department ID 1. So I'm just going and inserting another column which is having the department others. So as you can see, we have 2 different departments. If I'm going and joining these 2 tables, only the thing is department ID will be mapped to the SAM. So this is the thing which we are using the foreign key to just link the 2 different tables. So as I said earlier, we just don't need to store the same data repeatedly. So we are using the foreign key constraints to link the 2 different tables.
So it acts. So this reference is acting like kind of reference between employee table and the department table, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe in future I'll just do the joins and all. Maybe it will be clear for you that time.
Yeah. Hope your question is answered, Aaron. If not, like again you can ask. Okay. Yeah. Please continue, Divya.
Okay, next is create database, and what a drop database does is it will delete the database. So that is why we are using a syntax called drop database and database. If I have to delete the entire database, I just go and have to use the drop command. Next is we have seen create table syntax. Next is alter table. What an alter table does is, for example, we have created a employee table now. So I have to go and add some new column in that employee table. I'll be using the alter table command for just adding or deleting any existing column in a table. And next is truncate table. and we do have three different comments for deleting the records in a table. So which is delete, and next is truncate, and next is a drop. So three different kinds of commands are available just to delete anything in a table. So let us see with an example. So as you can see, there is two employees available in an employee table. I have to delete the employee which is a second record. So if I have to go and delete any one or two record in a table or using any kind of condition, I can use the delete command. So I am doing delete from employees where id equal to 2. So here you can see why we are using the primary key. So you can see the both records in this table are same. So I don't have any other differentiation to differentiate these two records, right? So that is why we can even have this employee ID different. For example, some table may not have any unique identification. So here employee ID I can have unique for each and every employee. Some tables may not have unique column like employee ID. So the tables in each and every column will be same. So in order to differentiate those two things, we will be having the ID column, I mean primary key, which is unique for each and every row. And for example, if I have to go and delete it, it is easy by referring the ID primary key and deleting it. So I am just doing the delete from employees where ID equal to 2. Now I am selecting the employee table. You can see that one record has got deleted. And next command is truncate. Syntax is truncate table employees. So what an truncate command does is it will delete the records total records in the table will be deleted, but the table structure will be remaining. So I have truncated the employee table. You can see the columns are there and the table structure is there, but all the records in the employee table is deleted. Instead of deleting one by one, we have a command called truncate to delete the entire records in a table. And then we have another command called drop. So what drop does is it will delete the entire table, and also the table structure is, will also be only available. So I have dropped the employee table. I'm going and okay, I'm going and doing the select. You can see employee does not exist. Before I didn't mention the schema name, so the employee table from another schema I was able to view. So you can see the tables listing here. You can only department table is available. So employee table has got dropped. So I have dropped department table also, so I am getting an error like foreign key is not available. So I am just creating the department table again.
So I think already department table is available, no? That is why I think we are getting.
No, I dropped the department table also.
Okay.
Since I have two different schemas now,
Right.
I have not used the exact schema name, so that may cause the error.
Yeah.
So I am referring the ID here, and then this column refers the column which is available in an employee table. I have created the employee table again. So you can see two different records. And next, so let us see some of the examples. So we have seen that all these different kinds of constraints. Next is we are going to see some of the DML operations. So we have seen inserting a record into the table, and next is selecting the table, and next is create the table using the select. So I have to make a copy of existing table. So I have a command called create table using select. I am just creating a copy of employee table by using select command. By just giving the select star from employees. So this is the command which is used to create the existing table by just giving the select command. And also we have another command called insert using select. So I am just creating another table, and I can just do the select, and I can just go and insert into the table. So I just have a command called insert into employee copy. Again I am doing the same, and by just giving the select statement I can go and insert the records which is available in the employee table by just using this command. And next command is like, so delete I have already told, and next is an update. So what an update command does is, so we have, in order to edit any record in a table, we have a command called update. So I have an let me go and select the employee table. I have to edit any record in this table. So I have to update this data of joining of the employee. So what command I have is update command. So update employees, update table name. I'm just going to set the value, which is set date of joining equals to which is August 1. I'm just going and updating it as August 15. And I'm by just giving the ID, or I can use employee name also, or I can use employee ID also to update this. I'm just using the employee ID column.
August 15 is a national holiday, Divya. Yeah, just kidding. Please continue.
Okay. So I'm just going and updating the date of joining of the employee term by using this update command. So you can see the date of joining has got updated. Okay, and so where is the condition which we are using to mention some comment which is used to mention some comments? So I have used it earlier also. So you can see I have used a where condition to just go and update and delete, and everything needs a where condition in order to view the records and everything. We need a where condition where we can go and mention the condition which we have to go and view the data. So next is an order by. So what an order by does is, we will suppose we are having some 1,000 records in a table. So we have to view them in some order, ascending or descending order. So we have a command called order by. So by using the order by command, we can view the data in some certain order, either ascending or descending. So select star from employees, order by. I'm using. I wanted to order the employee name in ascending. So I am using the ascending command, so it comes in the ascending order. If I do have descending, DESC is the command which is used to view the column in descending order. And next we have the in operator. What an in operator does is, so I have to view some employee IDs from 2 or more employee ID. So I can just go and mention in condition. So it will go and fetch the data which is satisfying this condition. In is used to mention 2 or more values. So equal by using the equal to, we can just give the only one value. By using in condition, we can give 2 or more values in the in condition. And next is like. So like operator. Suppose we do show an example. So I'm just selecting the employee name which is ending with M. So like operator will fetch the record, all the employee data which is ending with M. And okay, I have used A. So you can see Sam is the employee name, it is having A in the middle of that employee name column. So like operator is used to fetch the records which is having all these values in the column. So for example, I have used this percentage symbol. If I'm using this like in before means, all the column which is ending with M will be fetched. If I'm using A and the percentage both sides means, in this will represent the column which is having the data A in the middle of the column. So if I have to view the starting, so I can give S and then percentage symbol at the last. This gives the employee name which is starting with S. And next we have distinct command. So let me go and insert another employee. As you can see, I have two different names. I mean, two same names. Tom. I have to view distinct, different, only the unique values means I can just go and use the distinct command, which will give the unique values of that column. So we have three values in the table, but only two different values are fixed. So also I can go and view the salary data also. It will give the unique values of that column. So I have 225,000 salary, but I have got only two different salaries. And the next we have and or not operators. Okay. So what an AND operator does is, we have, for example, if we have to give two conditions means, we can use AND or operator. So for example, I have to view the employee data. I'm just giving a condition like, I have to view the employee ID which is equal to 1001, and also I have to say that salary is equals to 25,000. If I'm giving two different values, I can use the AND operator, and also I can use the OR operator also. What an OR operator does is, either if any one of the conditions satisfies, then it will return that values. So as you can see, I have got a records of 25,000 salary also, and also the employee ID 103, which is not having the salary 20,000. So our operator gives will give the records which satisfy either one of the condition. And then we have another operator called not. What a not operator does is, suppose I have to view any record which is not in this condition. So I'm just excluding the employee ID which is 101 and 102, and it has written the data of employee which is 1003. So I'm using this not operator which will exclude the conditions which is mentioned in this command. And next we have some of the aggregate functions. So aggregate functions are something called which we have to, for example, we have sum, min, max, count, average. These are some 5 different aggregate functions which is available in SQL. So I have to get the sum of any column in the table. I can go and use the sum, and these are the default functions which is available. So other terms, if we have to get any other thing, we have to go and create our own function. So these are 5 different default functions which is available in SQL. So I have to know how many salary an company is giving to an employee. So what I'm doing is I'm just going and getting the sum of all the salary in an employee table. So it gives the sum of the salary of all the employees. So I have another thing like min. Min will give the minimum salary of the employee, and max function will give the maximum salary of the employee, and then we have average. AVG is the function which is used to get the average of the salary, and then count. So what the count operator does is it will give the count of the column, how many data are there in the table. So I can give count of either column name or count of star. Count of star will give the number of columns which is there in the table. Okay, next is some of the functions like having, group by are available. So let us see what is in group by and having by using some example. So I have to view the salary of the employee by just grouping. Grouping means I have to view the how many employees are getting the salary of 25,000. So here I am using the group by operator. What it does is it just groups the salary column and it gives the employee data. So I wanted to view the employee ID and the salary. Or I can say how many employee, if I wanted to see how many employee are getting the salary of 25,000, I can just go and give the count of star and just give the group by of salary. So what it gives is one people is getting the salary of 30,000 and 2 people are getting the salary of 25,000. So group by just groups the column which we are mentioning and gives the data what we require. And then we do have an having clause. So like it also has the similar functionality of where clause, but only difference is we can't go and use the having clause in where simply by just select statement and all we can't use. Only wherever we are using the group by function we can use the having clause. What an having clause does is it also checks the condition. I have to see I can use the functions like aggregate functions to get the data. So I have to view the employee who is having the salary and their counts and having the count greater than 1. So I can give the use the aggregate functions in the having clause. So am I clear still now? If you have any doubts, just raise your hand.
Yeah, I think no doubts there.
Okay. And next is join. So we do have a functionality of join. What a join does is it just joins different tables, and by combining different tables we can get the required data. So as I said earlier, if I have to create any report in real time, we'll be if we are working in an application, let me say there is an let us consider this HRMS only. So I have two different tables, employee data in one table and department data in another table. I have to view the employee and the exact department of that employee. So by using the join, I can join the two different tables and I can get the required data. So we have different kinds of join, like inner join, left join, right join. Let us see all these kinds of join by some of examples. So I'm just going and selecting the employee name and his respective department. So here is the alias name I have used for this employee table. So in if I'm not giving the table name means it will go and refer the another table also. If two tables are having the same column, then we be the tool will be getting confused which column it has to fetch. So we have the alias name which is used to refer the table which we are selecting, and the column name. So e dot employee name is it refers the employee name of the employees table. And I am doing the join of department table. Okay. So I am giving the alias name as P. And the employee table we have the department ID, and in department table also we have the department ID. And by joining this, I am just getting the department name. So it gives the exact department of the respective employee. So this is the direct join we can say. What a direct join does is direct join or inner join we can say. So what an inner join does is it gives the records which is satisfying. Common in both the tables. So it will be clear if I'll be having any another example. Okay, for this I'm just going and emptying this department of the town. As you can see, before we are getting 3 records and now we are getting only 2 records, because I have just made the department ID of one employee as null. So if you go and see here, I have removed the department mapping of this employee. So this record doesn't come. So here you can see only 2 employees which is having the department map is coming. So this is the functionality of inner join. Inner join will return the records which is common in both the tables. And next we have left and right join. So what a left join does is it returns all the records from the left table, only the records which satisfies the condition in the left another table. So you can see I have got the employee Tom and he is not having the department. So you can see this record has also come by using the left join. And we have another join called right join. So what right join does is it gets all the record from the right table, which is the department table, and only the matching record which is available in the employee table. As you can see, I don't have the employee name here, but you can see the department others. So this is three different join, and also we do have another join called self join. What is a self join means? Joining the same table. For example, let me add another column to the employee table. I'm just adding the manager. This is the syntax for adding any column in a table. So alter table, I'm just adding the manager. So here we don't have any, I didn't give any data, so by default all the data are null. So for this employee Sam, I'm just going and updating the manager areas too. So here I have joined the employee table with employee table. This is the self join. So you may have a doubt like why I have just joined the employee table with employee table itself. So for example, in real time, the employee of the employee table will be having the all the data of a manager or any employee will be stored in the employee table. So even the manager data will be there. So I am just going and mapping the manager data, which is who is also an employee of that company. So here you can see Sam is an employee who is having the Tom, which is having the ID 2. He is the manager of Sam. So that is why we are getting the Tom as the employee name and manager name as Sam. So self join is nothing but joining the same table to get the data. And then we have cross join. So in real time we won't be using cross join. So what a cross join does is it just combines entire columns in that table we are joining. For example, I'm just going and selecting employee table and just giving the department table. And I just wanted to view the employee name and the department name. So for cross join, we don't need to and keep the condition. Since there is some table won't be having any common data, but simply I have to get the data. So I'm just using this cross join. So by just giving the employee and the department, I can just view the data of both the tables which is combined. So here you can see each employee table's record has got mapped to the department table. So 3 records in employee table has got mapped to department table's name, department name, and 3 different employee has got mapped to another 3 records of the department table. So in real time, mostly we won't be using the cross join, but it is also available. And next is indexes. So what an index does is it just makes the retrieval of data in a table faster. So in real time we'll be having some thousands and lakhs of record. So if I'm and also the in real time employee table won't be having some 10 columns or 20 columns. It will be having some 50 to 60 columns. So where in order to make the retrieval of data faster, we are having a concept called indexes. So by creating the indexes, we can make the retrieval of data faster. So index is nothing but, for example, for every book, we have an index page where we are going and just referring the index page, and it will just goes to the page. It is where, for example, if a page is book is having the index 1, and there the topics will be mentioned. So directly by referring the index, we can go to the page which we require, right? So that is how the index in SQL also works. Mostly what are the columns we will use in index is like columns which we are using in the where condition. For example, if I'm using the here I have used the employee ID, right? So if I wanted to if I'm using the employee ID column most frequently for any select statement for any report purpose, so I just have to create the index of the employee ID column in the employee table. So this is the syntax for creating an index, and also I can have combined of 2 or different columns depending upon the condition we are using. We can create an index, and also we can create the indexes for columns combinedly. For example, I have shown you using 2 different conditions in where like I have used the employee ID and also salary. So whenever I'm using 2 different columns, I can go and create the indexes for all these columns combinedly also, not only for single column, but multiple columns can also have the indexes. Like this, I can even give the indexes of combined columns also. And so these are the basic things which is common in all the databases. So I have told you like we have so many different databases, right? So these are the just basics which is used. I mean syntax and everything is same for all the databases. and we do have functions, procedures, triggers, which and all varying. Syntax will be differing from database to database. For example, there is a concept called trigger. So trigger, what a trigger function does is, whenever I'm just doing an insert or update in a table, in order to have another insert or update into another table, I can go and create an event called trigger. So it is a concept which is used in all the databases, but the syntax of this trigger function will be varying from database to database. So in order because of that, I haven't covered those topics, so I just covered the basics which is required for this SQL. So if you have any doubts here, you can just ask.
I think we are good, Divya.
Okay.
So is that all from your side?
Yeah, I have done my part.
Yeah. Okay. So can you please go to the slides?
Yeah.
So basically, like now we have. So initially you showed us a schema, right? Employee management system, HR management system. So that entire database is now developed and we can use that, right? Hello, Divya.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, so
Can you hear me?
sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, so I was asking, so initially, like, so this particularly the database which you have worked, it is a HR management system, right?
Yeah.
So have you completed all the kind of schema which you have shown so that we can use the database entirely, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what Divya has presented is, so initially she talked about the theory part of DBMS and SQL, and currently she also showed us a HRMS database, and which had some few tables like employee table and department tables, and most of the constraints also she covered, and attributes like where class. So everything she has covered. So basically now I think we can have a kind of interactive session. If you have any questions or any doubts over here, we can talk about it. So please come forward, guys. So even if it is not related to SQL or any other career guidance or any doubts, you can ask now. Please feel free to talk. Any question, guys?
Come on, guys. Please make it interactive. Then only it will be useful for you. Is there anybody that studying final year and about to make any projects, many projects, so that you can get some guidance from us, not only regarding from the SQL. So you can ask anything from anything that you have actually.
Any question, guys?
Nobody, or just raise the hands, then just we can make it interactive. Yeah, Aaron, come on.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, Aaron.
Hello, sir. Is there any database used in gaming, sir?
Yeah, so gaming also they'll be mostly using, I think, NoSQL database they would use. So if you come across, for example, you might have heard of MongoDB, or even Google Cloud has their own database called Google Cloud Firestore, and there are many other databases that gamings will be used. So when you take gamings, I think they won't use RDBMS, I feel, because RDBMS is used when there is a need for data intensive kind of application. If you take some enterprises application, for example, namely a hospital management system or a library management system, or there will be tools like CRM tools available for many enterprises. So those kind of applications will be using like lots of data. So where lots of data is coming to play, there will be need for RDMS. But for gaming kind of application, it is not data intensive, but rather it is kind of performance wise intensive, or graphic wise it is intensive. So I think they will be using NoSQL databases.
Thank you for your question, Aaron. Is there anybody that has any questions? Like a placement regarding, like, or any other programming related?
Come on guys, we have another 10 more minutes I think, so please make use of this. And yeah,
Just raise hands, guys. Then we can make it interactive.
so maybe now I'll share my screen and I'll let you know some platforms. 1 second.
Do you want me to stop the screen?
Yeah, for now 1 minute. Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen now. Hope it is visible. So we have an Hacker Rank. So we have a platform called Hacker Rank where you can prepare for any coding interviews. So specifically for SQL, we have a track over there in Hacker Rank. So this one and all, like I was solved a very like few years back. I think when I was in college, I just started learning SQL, and at the time I was solving some queries here. So maybe I'll send this link in the chat as well. So if you are interested in learning SQL, and if you want to develop your skills practically, maybe here each and every task from basics will be there, and you can start executing it. Also, not only SQL, there are many other tracks like Java or data structures and algorithm, databases, Ruby, like many programming languages will be there, and problem solving. Actually, like if you want to get into kind of good companies, I think we should be good at problem solving. So I think this platform is very popular among the programmers. So if you are interested in any track, Python or Java, so you can choose any language and you can start coding. So initially maybe you will find difficult like how to implement all those stuffs, and in each and every program, like there will be discussions, topics will be there, and even initially you can start googling and stuff. First of all, you understand the problem statement of the question, and then you try to solve by yourself. But if not, can't solve or I can't think, just try to follow some other solutions in the Google. So already there will be thousands of programmers who have solved that question. So those solutions you can first understand and then try start coding it. So day by day, like if you are doing this by practice regularly, you will start seeing patterns between programs. For example, if you take arrays or strings, so if you solve programs day by day, like you will start seeing patterns between different problems, and there will be a phase where you will start thinking solution from yourself itself. You don't want to depend on other solution. So that phase comes by practice. So these kind of platforms you can use when you're in college, so that you can crack any coding interviews. So that is one thing I thought of sharing. And regarding any other mini projects or something, for example, now we have, I think you might have got some idea regarding SQLs. So maybe you can do some, if you are in third year or second year, maybe you can do some mini projects like library management system for our college, or student management system. Like using only SQL we can do, but also if you want, you can write some web servers using Java or something. So those kind of workshops will do it in future. But in only particularly in SQL, you can do library management system by designing the data for the libraries, or for the college, if any other placement cells. You can do a lot of application. There will be a lot of ideas around it. So think of that, and if you have any queries, you can reach out to us as well.